Hello everyone, this is Jacob from the Overboard Games team. If you're watching this video, it means you have volunteered to play test the beta version of Badwater, and for that I'd like to extend a huge thank you from myself and the rest of the Overboard team. We really appreciate your time in helping to make this game come to life. In this video, I'll be showing you how to set up and play Badwater, so feel free to pause at any point in the video so that you can follow along on your board at home. To set up the board, start by finding the market, which is the octagonal wood tile, and place it in the center of your table. Then, you will need to find the two large board pieces and two small board pieces, and place them surrounding the market like so. Now for the cards. There will be 5 decks of cards in your box. Start by finding the deck that says Wildcard on the back. Shuffle it and place it here on the board. The remainder of the decks are for betting. Each player should take a betting deck, shuffle it, and draw 5 cards. Place the remainder of the deck face down beside you. The cards you've drawn should also be hidden from your opponents, so you can place your hand face down in front of you for now. Now, each player can choose a color. There are 5 base tokens for your color that look like this. Take them and put them beside your betting deck. There will also be a player token that looks like this, which you can put on the start tile. Each color also gets an associated class card. So if you chose red, you are the outlaw. Take the outlaw class card and place it in front of you. If you chose blue, you are the sheriff. If you chose yellow, you are the prospector. And if you chose green, you are the desperado. Green, you also get the hot hand token to start the game, so take that and place it in front of you as well. Finally, there are 8 dice, which you can put in a pile somewhere close to the board. You are now set up and ready to play your first game of Badwater. So your objective in this game is to control the most bases on the board, and you do this by winning bets with your cards, so you can move around the board to capture and defend bases. There are 8 base tiles on the board in total, each with varying amounts of stars on them. If you are playing with 2 or 3 players, your goal is to control 5 of these base tiles, and if you're playing with 4 players, your goal is to control 4 of these base tiles. The game is played out in rounds, and each round consists of 3 phases, starting with the bet, and then the brawl, and finally the draw phase. To bet, each player will choose 1 card from their hand and place it face down on the table. Then, every player reveals their bet at the same time. The player with the highest card receives 3 action points. If multiple players tie for highest, each receive 2 action points, and all losing players will receive 1 action point. In this example here, red and yellow have tied for the highest card, so they will both receive 2 action points, and the losers will receive 1. Now, if yellow played a 3 instead, red would receive 3 action points, and all other players would receive 1. Now here's where things get interesting. After the initial bet has been revealed, any player may choose to double down by taking another card from their hand and betting it face down on the table. If this happens, each other player must decide if they want to bet another card or leave their bet the way it is. After all players have decided, the additional bets are revealed and added to the value of their original bet. Now you can double down multiple times in one bet, but there are some limitations. First, you can only double down with 1 card at a time. After the first series of doubling down has been revealed, you can then choose to double down again. Second, only players who doubled down the first time are able to double down again. So once you opt out once, your bet will stay the same for the rest of the round. Finally, if you double down and everyone else opts out, you cannot double down additional times after that. That means 1 player needs to have doubled down with you if you want to double down an additional time. Once all additional bets have been decided, each player calculates their total bet from the combined value of all cards played during this round. In this example, green bet a total of 7 points, which will beat out red, who has a combined value of 6. So now, it is green that will receive 3 points, and all other players that will receive 1 point instead. Once betting is finished, take any cards that you wagered and place them in a discard pile face up beside your betting deck. If your playgroup enjoys counting cards, you may also decide to discard face down for a more competitive game. To help calculate action points, you can flip over your class card to find a reference on how points are earned and spent. The reference also summarizes 3 ways that you can receive bonus action points during the bet. This includes the base bonus, the hot hand bonus, and the doubling down bonus. Once players start controlling bases, they will receive 1 additional action point for each star on bases they control after a win or a tie. Second, if you win a bet after 1 or more opponents double down, you receive 1 additional action point for each card that any opponent doubled down against you. Finally, if you win a bet while you already have the hot hand token, you receive 2 additional action points. Now that you know all the ways that action points can be earned during the betting phase, it's time to move on to the second phase, the Brawl. During the Brawl, players spend all action points that they earned during the previous bet. The reference card also includes a summary of all the ways you can spend action points in this phase. To start, it costs 1 action point to move 1 tile on the board. Once you land on a base, you can spend 1 action point to capture it and place one of your base tokens on the tile. If you're standing on a base you control, you can spend 1 action point to reinforce it, making it harder for your opponents to capture. A base can be reinforced up to 6 times, and this is tracked using the reinforcement dice. If you spend 1 action point to reinforce your base, take a reinforcement die and place it with the number 1 facing up inside of your base token. This is where the class bonuses start to come into effect. If you are the sheriff, each time you spend 1 action point to reinforce your base, you will get 2 reinforcements instead. If an opponent lands on your base later on, they must spend 1 action point for each reinforcement that is on your base before they can capture it. Once all reinforcements have been removed, they can spend 1 final action point to capture your base and replace it with their base token. If you are the outlaw, your attacks are doubled. This means that you can spend 1 action point to remove 2 reinforcement points off an opponent's base, or spend 1 action point to remove 1 reinforcement and capture their base simultaneously if the base only has 1 reinforcement left. Finally, you can spend 1 action point to draw 1 card from your betting deck. You can do this if you want to have a strong hand for your next bet, or to replenish your hand after doubling down. Players will take turns in the Brawl phase deciding how they want to spend their action points, starting with the player with the hot hand token and going clockwise from there. If red won the next betting phase, they would take the hot hand token from green and lead the next Brawl phase. But remember, you only receive the hot hand bonus if you win while already having the hot hand token. So red would have to win an additional time after this without losing the hot hand to an opponent in order to receive the bonus. In the event of a tie, the hot hand token does not move and no bonus is assigned. Now it's time to move on to the final phase. At the end of each Brawl, move into the draw phase. Each player will draw 1 card from their betting deck to replenish their hand before moving to the next bet. If you are the Desperado, this is where your class bonus comes in. You will always draw up to 5 cards in the draw phase, regardless of how many cards you spent in the previous bet. Once all players have drawn their cards, it's time to move on to the next round. Rounds will continue this way until players run out of cards in their betting deck, at which point they will continue with the cards in their hand until they are completely out of cards. This part of the game is called the shuffle. Once all players run out of cards, each player will take their discard pile, shuffle it, and draw 5 cards, just as you did at the beginning of the game. The remainder of your deck will become your betting deck once again, and the rounds will continue. If you're the Desperado, you get the hot hand token back at the beginning of each shuffle. It's important to remember that the shuffle happens for all players simultaneously, so if you run out of cards, you forfeit all rounds and stop receiving action points until all players are ready for the shuffle. Some final thoughts here. You cannot pass a bet, which means if you have any cards remaining in your hand or your deck, you must continue to bet at least 1 card per round until you are completely out of cards. If you are the only person with cards remaining, you will receive 1 action point for each card you have left in your hand or your deck, and the shuffle will begin from there. Players will continue with as many rounds and shuffles as necessary until 1 player controls 5 bases, or 4 bases if you're playing with 4 players. There will often be close calls here, and you must hold this number of bases until the end of the round. That means if you capture your final base, and an opponent is able to capture or destroy another one of your bases in the same round, play will continue. Alright, there are only 2 more features to go before you are ready to play. The first one is the duel. Put simply, if 2 players are standing on the same base, neither player can interact with that base in any way. First, they must challenge their opponent to a duel. Any player who wants to duel must wager 1 card face down on the table, and an opponent can either accept that duel by wagering a card of their own, or stand down by moving to an adjacent tile of their choice. If the duel is accepted, it will play out in a similar way to a bet. Each player will reveal their cards simultaneously, double down if they wish, and the duel is decided based on the total value of all cards wagered. Here's where things are a little different. If you win the bet, you get to return any wagered cards to your hand and stay on the base tile. If you lose, discard your bet and move to an adjacent tile of your choice. In the event of a tie, both players discard their bet and move to an adjacent tile of their choice. Duels can take place at any point during the Brawl phase and do not cost any action points to initiate. The last feature to know about this game are the wildcards. If your player token is ever on the market, you can discard a betting card from your hand to draw a wildcard without spending any action points. You may only buy 1 wildcard per turn, but you can hold up to 4 cards at a time, and any amount can be played in 1 turn. There are 4 types of wildcards in the deck: the Jack, Queen, King, and Ace. If you draw a Jack, you could use it at any time to move your player token up to 3 tiles or to the market from anywhere. If you draw a Queen, you can use it at any time to remove 3 reinforcements from an opponent's base. If their base has fewer than 3 reinforcements, it becomes destroyed and the base token is removed. If you draw a King, you can reveal it at any time to add 3 reinforcements to a base you control. You can also use it after attacks are declared to block 3 attacks from an opponent. This could also cancel out a Queen, for example. Something to note about Kings and Queens is that you do not have to be standing on the base you are attacking or defending, and they can be used from anywhere on the map. Finally, the Ace. Aces are only revealed during bets or duels, as they add 1 point to your total bet and end the current bet or duel. This means that no other players can double down after an ace is played, but other aces can still be played at this point. Alright, if you're the prospector, thank you for your patience. This is where your class bonus comes in. You will receive 1 free wildcard at the beginning of the game, and an additional free wildcard at the beginning of each shuffle. You are now ready to play your first game of Badwater. If you have any comments at the end of the game, there's a quick 5-minute survey you can find in the description of this video and also on a QR code inside the box. We would love to hear your thoughts, and we will be making revisions based on your comments to make this game the best that it can be. Thanks for watching, and have fun.